Welcome back to Ghost Pirate Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today we talk about the 10 best horror movies so far this year. So keep in mind, this is just based on the horror movies I've been able to see so far this year. There's still a bunch I look forward to checking out. But with that, let's get to the list. The Boogeyman is a supernatural horror movie, directed by Rob Savage and based on the 1973 short story of the same name by Stephen King. It stars Sophie Thatcher, Chris Messina, and Vivian Lyra Blair. Still reeling after the tragic death of their mother, a teenage girl and her younger sister find themselves plagued by a sadistic presence in their house. So kicking this list off is The Boogeyman, and I really enjoyed this movie. I've been kind of surprised how lackluster of a reception it got because it really connected with me, but a lot of it had to do with the acting, the cast, the stars in this. I felt like they really brought these amazing performances full of drama and emotion. And so that just really spoke to me and got me. And the family dynamic, I thought, was just wonderfully done in this. I also really enjoyed the mood and atmosphere that this movie had, the lighting, the way the creature was shown, and just the way they build a lot of dread. The jump scares I thought were well done. Just in general, I thought it was a really well done movie, well put together in every way, and definitely a good place to kick this list off.
What are you reporting? Can you hear me?
The Outwaters is a horror movie written, directed, and starring Robbie Van Fitch. It also stars Angela Basilis and Scott Schimmel. The story is about four friends who go to the desert to record a music video, but soon they begin to encounter menacing phenomena while camping in a remote stretch of the Mojave Desert.
Please call me. I'm so worried about you and your brother. I haven't heard from you guys in days.
So this is one that definitely isn't for everyone. It's really an experimental movie that kind of reminds me in some ways of Skinamarink, but definitely had a lot more going on, a lot more exciting, but just in general, it's experimental. It's mostly about the sound and the quick flashes of images that you get, because a huge stretch of this movie, it's basically pitch black, and these characters are running around trying to figure out what's going on, and you're trying to figure out what's going on. You, little by little, you see these different things, and then eventually it gets even more dark and disturbing, just leading to a pretty shocking ending. But this is a movie about art. This is a very artsy kind of film, experimental. It's definitely, like I said, not for everyone, because if you're wanting a narrative type of story that's just point A to B, this is not really that. This is trying to do things in a different way, but I found it to be rather disturbing, unsettling, and very, very uncomfortable, especially seeing this in a theater. Now, at home, I'm sure it won't have quite the effect, but if you watch it in a pitch black room where you're just totally absorbed into this film and the sound really kind of engulfs your mind like it did with me, then I think it could absolutely get to you as well. So for a strange, very interesting, creative little film, this is one I think is definitely worth checking out.
You have a mask, don't you? You're masked. What? I can't let you in. It's not safe. Are you kidding me, lady? Please!
Sick is a slasher horror movie directed by John Hyams and written by Kevin Williamson. It stars Gideon Adlon, Beth Million, and Dylan Sprayberry. Due to the pandemic, Parker and her best friend decide to quarantine at the family lake house alone. Or so they think.
This is incredible.
Sick, and it's all ours. The only neighbor is miles away.
So this is a fun movie, and it's written by Kevin Williamson, so it definitely has this great young, teenager, young adult dialogue, kind of similar to Scream. I mean, he is the writer of Scream. But in general, it's just a fun movie, but it has some unique twists. It is just your basic slasher in a lot of ways, But as the movie goes along, it starts to become a little twisted and goes into some directions that you're not going to see coming, and ultimately has more to offer than your average run-of-the-mill slasher. It absolutely looks fantastic. The way this movie's shot and the cinematography, even though it's really all in just mostly this one location, this cabin, it just is impeccably done. The speed and the violent nature that some of the things throughout this happen, it's just really exciting, to be honest, and it really caught me off guard because it comes at you with a lot more intensity than it seems like it's going to. I also really enjoyed how the way they talked about the pandemic, and it really brought back that moment in time that, even though it is only a few years ago, I have kind of pushed it out of my brain, and I've kind of gotten tired in a lot of ways of just all of that, social commentary and just the whole pandemic in general. I'm ready to move on with my life. And so at first I shied away from checking this movie out, but honestly, this movie does a really great job of handling it. It's how you should do a pandemic movie, because it didn't feel exhausting. It didn't feel tiresome. It just felt like it was fun, as well as kind of reminding you of some of the more interesting things about that time. But it doesn't just make light of it. It also has some pretty significant social commentary to say. But when you boil it down to its core, it really is just a fun slasher, and one that I think is absolutely worth your time.
I won't let anything harm you. Ever again. It's nice to have.
Megan is a sci-fi horror movie directed by Gerard Johnstone and written by Akela Cooper and James Wan. It stars Allison Williams, Violet McGraw, and Amy Donald. When Gemma suddenly becomes the caretaker of her 8-year-old niece Katie, Gemma's unsure and unprepared to be a parent. But under intense pressure at work, Gemma decides to pair her Megan prototype with Katie, a decision that will have unimaginable consequences.
This is Megan.
Hi, Megan. I'm Katie. It's nice to meet you, Katie.
This is another one that I thought was a lot of fun, and most everyone that's into horror anyway, has already checked this out. It's just a fun movie. It didn't take itself serious, but it brought a few new, fun, refreshing wrinkles to the game. It didn't reinvent the wheel by any means, but it's well acted, well written, well put together. The special effects were on point. Just the way Megan looks is phenomenal. The way they seamlessly put CGI mixed with a body double and this prosthetic mask that actually moved really was extremely well done. It was a PG-13 movie when it was in theaters, so it's not overtly violent, but there is an R-rated version now available online that adds a little more gore, a little more violence, nothing too crazy, a little more strong language, but for the most part, it's still the same movie, just a little more added. But I thought it was a blast, and definitely one of the biggest surprises so far this year. Malum is a horror movie directed by Anthony DeBlasi. It's a reboot of his 2014 film Last Shift and stars Jessica Sula, Eric Olson, and Cheney Morrow. A rookie police officer willingly takes the last shift at a newly decommissioned police station in an attempt to uncover the mysterious connections between her father's death and a vicious cult.
This way, rookie. Call's been rerouted to the new station, so it should be quiet. There's an emergency. The station's number's on the desk.
Sure, I'll be fine.
So I just got done watching this right before putting this list together, and I was really impressed by this. Because going in, I kind of thought what probably a lot of you guys think, Last Shift was a fantastic movie, but why did we need a remake, especially when it's done by the same guy that made the original, and it's only been a few years? I mean, yes, it's been 9 years, but it doesn't really feel like it needed a reboot. But now after watching it, I get it. He's able to really add a lot more to the story of what the film Last Shift had to offer. He's also able to add a lot more amazing special effects and demented shit. Like, this movie is really twisted, Really pretty savagely gory as well. Well acted, well directed. You can see that he really learned from the first time go round and really had a good vision of exactly what he was trying to accomplish with this, because it's tight and well put together. I really think this is a fantastic gem, and I hope more people check this out. I know it hasn't gotten a lot of play so far, but I hope that it lands on Shudder or Netflix or somewhere where it can really kind of stretch out and really get its footing, because I think it deserves a lot more attention that it's getting. So if you have yet to see this, I think it's definitely worth renting for a few dollars. So definitely get on it and check it out.
Hello again.
Hello, Cherry.
The Artifice Girl is a sci-fi thriller written and directed by Franklin Rich. It stars Tatum Matthews, Lance Hendrickson, and Sita Nichols. A team of special agents discover a revolutionary new computer program to bait and trap online predators. After teaming up with the program's troubled developer, they soon find that the AI is rapidly advancing beyond its original purpose.
The reason you can't find Cherry, the reason why she doesn't have a last name or a social security number, it's because she's not a real human being.
So I checked this out a couple months ago. I rented it and was absolutely floored by it. I didn't do a review of it at the time because I wasn't sure how horror it was. This is much more of a sci-fi movie, thriller movie. But as the last few months have gone by, this movie just keeps sticking in my brain. I just think it's such a fantastically done movie. It's very small, so you gotta realize that going in. This is really a mostly dialogue movie, but the performances and the ideas and concepts that this film talks about and delves into, I think are so fascinating, especially right now with all these advances in AI that have been happening like crazy. But it isn't something that's gonna have action or crazy special effects or anything like that. This is a very small, kind of slow burn think piece, but for think pieces and that artsy drama kind of horror thrillers, this is about as good as it gets. I think it's fantastic and absolutely worth checking out if you get a chance.
You know, James, do you worry they got the wrong man?
Infinity Pool is a sci-fi horror movie written and directed by Brandon Cronenberg. It stars Alexander Skarsgård, Mia Goth, and Cleopatra Coleman. The plot focuses on a couple who are enjoying an all-inclusive beach vacation when a fatal accident exposes the resort's perverse subculture of hedonistic terrorism, reckless violence, and surreal horrors.
Mr. James Foster, you'll have to come with us.
Here, the punishment for any crime committed is death.
So like most of these on this list, I've done full reviews of them, so if you want to go hear me talk more about it, definitely check those reviews out. But this one I've talked about more than just in a review. I recommended it before. I love this movie. I'm a huge fan of David Cronenberg, as well as becoming a huge fan of his son, Brandon Cronenberg. Just the way they use body horror to talk about these esoteric, weird, deep, human nature meets science and just all these interesting topics that they delve into in their movies. A lot of times I leave the movie not being sure what I just watched, but I still really enjoy the puzzle. I still really enjoy trying to figure out what it's trying to say and what it is doing. On top of that, they're so creatively shot, beautiful cinematography in this film. Just the acting is on point. It really is an interesting, well done, well put together, thought out kind of film that for people that enjoy those kind of films that I'm talking about, it doesn't get a lot better than this. I think this movie is a fantastic work of film art.
Dracula.
Okay, obviously we're dealing with a little bit more than just narcissism here.
Renfield is a comedy horror movie. Directed by Chris McKay, it stars Nicholas Hoult, Awkwafina, and Nicolas Cage. Renfield, Dracula's henchman, longs for a life away from the Count, his various demands, and all the bloodshed that goes along with them.
My boss gave me this power. turn, I tend to his needs, including care, feeding.
This movie had me in stitches. This is probably, at least for me, the funniest movie this year. The best time in a theater I've had this year, at least as far as a silly comedy kind of thing goes. Now, I'm not a huge comedy guy. I'm much more a horror fan, and I enjoy a little bit of humor is sprinkled into my horror. But I'm not someone that seeks out comedies by themselves. I very rarely go to a theater in the sole purpose of watching a comedy. But with this film, it's very much comedy. It does have a lot of horror imagery and some gore and a lot of the horror things that we love so much. But it is all in the service of the comedy. The whole movie is never meant to scare you, never really meant to make you uncomfortable, but just to make you laugh your ass off, relax, and just enjoy yourself. And I swear, I could watch Nicolas Cage play Dracula for the rest of his life. Like, he could do sequel after sequel of this movie or anything that he's Dracula in, because I swear he was born for this role. But Nicholas Hoult as well is fantastic. He just really owns this role. He's funny and quirky and just really has a lot of great lines and just gives off a really fun performance in this role. If you have yet to see this, I think you definitely should, because I think it's a perfect popcorn comedy horror movie. So definitely get on it and check it out.
Oh my god.
Talk to Me is an Australian supernatural horror movie, directed by Danny and Michael Philippou in their feature film debut, with a concept by Daley Pearson. It stars Sophia Wilde, Alexander Jensen, and Miranda Otto. When a group of friends discover how to summon spirits using an embalmed hand, they become hooked on the new thrill until one of them goes too far and unleashes terrifying supernatural forces.
Where'd you get it from anyway?
Apparently it was the hand of someone who could connect with the dead.
I heard it was the hand of a Satanist. The other hand's just out there.
Damn, this movie is good. I just posted a review of it, so it would have been last week by the time you're watching this video. So definitely go watch my full review of this. And even since, I'm even more excited about this movie. I can't wait to watch this again. As soon as it's in theaters this week, or at the time you're watching this, it should be just hitting theaters. So I plan to check it out again myself. This is amazing. And I'm not going to spoil anything, so don't worry. But it has everything you want in an indie supernatural A24 horror movie. It's full of dread and uncomfortability. It gets savage and gruesome with shocking moments, great acting. The special effects are fantastic. The cinematography and the shot selection, just the angles. You could tell that the people involved in this are super creative, artistic individuals, because everything about it looks thought out and creatively put together. From the lighting and the mood, just everything. This is a fantastic movie. Honestly, I'm having a hard time not putting it number one. But there's just one movie that I fell in love with this year so far that I love just a little more. But honestly, as time goes by, and after I see this movie again, this might be my number one. Who knows? Come this December, I'll put out my official list for my best of for this entire year. But at this point right now, it comes in just barely in my number 2 spot.
What will be.
Evil Dead Rise is a supernatural horror movie, written and directed by Lee Cronin. It stars Lily Sullivan, Alyssa Sutherland, and Morgan Davies. It's a twisted tale of two sisters, whose reunion gets cut short by the rise of flesh-possessing demons, thrusting them into a primal battle to survive.
Here's what she said to me. It's me.
So I'm a huge fan of the Evil Dead franchise. I don't think there's a single one of them that is not a good movie, at least on some level, because Army of Darkness is less serious, much more slapstick silliness. There's not a lot of scariness in it at all, but it's still fantastic. And the first Evil Dead is great in its grindhousey, you know, DIY type of feel about it. Everything is definitely put together with bubblegum and rubber bands, but it feels so uncomfortable and eerie in that way. And then Evil Dead 2 might be the best of the entire franchise. It's kind of a mixture of the first Evil Dead and then of Army of Darkness. It just kind of has the best of both worlds. It's funny and slapstick, but it's also creepy and scary at times with some amazing practical effects. And then, most recently, the 2013 Evil Dead reboot or requel or whatever you want to call it. It was phenomenal. I love that movie. It did everything that Evil Dead did, but without any of the silliness, without any of the campy goofiness. It took it all completely straight and made it just savage and gory and just, oh, that movie is, you know, chef's kiss. But this kind of does a little bit of both worlds. It takes, and in some ways it's like 2013, but then in other ways it's like the original Evil Dead, and this kind of plays it more straight, but it does still have a few nods and a little bit of campiness, a little bit of silliness, like the eyeball scene in this. It just, you know, has both those, I thought, and did it really well. Now, is this a perfect movie? No. And I know that a lot of people have shit on this, but for me, it's got everything that I really love in a movie to go see in theaters. It gets gory and savage, absolutely brutal, just buckets of gore and blood, but in a fun way. It has great acting, wonderful body horror. Just some of the body horror done in this is just some of the best you'll see. It has really awesome lighting and mood. Just so many things I thought were a blast about this. I mean, I've seen this movie so many times. I mean, I go to the drive-ins to do a lot of my editing. It's just a way to get out of the house and get some editing done. And I must have seen this 6 or 7 times at the drive-in, let alone twice in a theater. But I just think it's that much fun. I'm not saying it's the best movie ever made. I'm not even saying it's the best Evil Dead or anything like that. But for this year, to this point, it's my favorite theater experience. It's my favorite movie so far this year. So that's it for this list, but I would love to know down in the comments what your favorite horror movie this year is. And if you enjoy this, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and ding that little bell, because that is the best way to keep track of this channel. And when I post videos like this, and I post videos like this every single week, I also want to give a huge, massive, enormous thank you to the Ghost Pirate crew, to you guys over on Patreon, and to the channel members over here. You guys absolutely mean the world to me. And if you would like to find out how you can help support the channel on Patreon, there's a link down in the description, or over here on the channel if you want to become a channel member. There's a button right down there that says join. But like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button, and remember guys, horror can be fun. And if you enjoyed this, click right here to watch my most recent Tubi recommendation list, and I'll see you guys next time.